高い洋服着れば全然悪いしさ、なんか布切れでさ、何毛玉がめっちゃついてるさ、洋服だったらさ、やばいやつやん。なんかなんて言うんだろうな、ユニクロあたり切ってればいいんじゃない？
Welcome to the Lazy Fluency podcast, where we have casual conversations switching between English and Japanese so that you can learn from and with us along the way. I'm Joey,
And I'm Miami.
and the topic of the day is staying safe in America and Japan. Before we get into that, make sure to like, subscribe, follow, and or drop a review on whatever platform you're listening on. We appreciate the support. And with that out of the way, staying safe in America and Japan. We've done episodes on the safety of Japan, Japan being safe. We've done episodes on America not being safe, but we've never directly addressed how do you actually stay safe in both countries. This is being prompted because later this year I will be going to New York for the first time, and as a country bumpkin, although I've traveled to California, but for me, this would be the first time going to the East Coast, and so in my head I'm like, am I gonna get just like attacked and mugged, but at the same time, and then all my clothes are gonna be taken off of me and left on the street? Which, I mean, maybe there's also equal chance of the police doing that to me, or me being in the subway and having a random civilian do that to me, which happened to someone in. I mean, not really funny story, but that happened in New York recently as well. Ayami, what are your thoughts? Because you're going to New York for the first time, right? You haven't been in New York.
初めてでございますね。西海岸、ロサンゼルスの方は、2回ぐらい行ったことあるのかな？そう。1回目は、高校1年か。の時にベルクリーに行ったのと、あと、高校2年の時に、親戚の結婚式で、ロサンゼルスに行きました。はい。なので、東海岸は初めてでございます。
And do you have any conceptions about New York when you think of New York in terms of its safety, like as a Japanese person?
何? Safety だけ? Safety について?
Yeah, just safety, or I guguess, yeah, your impression of New York, because I know a lot of people want to go to New York, especially Japanese people. But is there...
治安のイメージとしては、やっぱりなんか結構ホームレスの人が多いっていうイメージがあって、多分、なんていうんだろう、ロサンゼルスは、大阪で、ニューヨークが東京みたいな感じなのかな？そんな感じ？
I mean,
例えると。
I think, yeah, if you were to say that, like, I don't really know if there's a good comparison to Los Angeles, just because, I mean, if you're just talking about Los Angeles, like city, maybe you could compare that to somewhere in Japan, but the urban infrastructure is just so different that I feel like that's hard to make a comparison. But yeah, New York, Tokyo comparison, I think makes sense, but I actually think Tokyo is probably more like Osaka in terms of like, in this is
Tokyo is more like Osaka? What?
Sorry, New York is more like Osaka.
New York ね。
from what I understand, because I've not been there physically, in the sense that things are a little more rugged. Like there's a lot of people, obviously, but things are a little more dirty and rugged in a lot of places. That's kind of my impression as someone who has not been to New York, at least compared to Tokyo, because Tokyo is like immaculate in terms of how clean it is, despite how many people are there.
あと、なんかイメージに、浮かぶのが、何っけ？ジョーカーってわかるよね。
Yeah, as in like the Batman villain?
そうそう、バットマンのジョーカーの、映画があったじゃん。
Oh, just, yeah.
ホワキン・フェニックス、なんだっけ、フェニックスだっけ、フェニックスかわかんないけど。わかる？ 俳優さんの。そう。その人がやってたやつでさ、なんか、地下鉄で、なんか銃やったり、銃ボボボーンとか、あと、結構そういうシーンが多いじゃん。あと、落書きがすごいとかさ、ドラッグの、なんていうの、売買とかしてたり、ね、なんかそういう暗い、ダークな感じのとこもありそう。そう。
Well, something I learned, because even I have a bias as a rural man, I have rural head. But something I learned last week is that apparently, in terms of danger, as described by violent crime, not petty crime or theft, but in terms of violent crime, many of the rural areas in the U.S. have the highest danger levels. New York is still towards like the upper half of being dangerous. Same with California, but I think it was like the most dangerous place in the U.S. it's like Alaska. Like, and by a long shot, like Alaska has like 4 times more violent crime than any other place in the U.S.
それ何ベアにさ、アタックされるとかじゃなくて。
No. And I wonder, I should have looked this up for Japan. I wonder if there's a Hokkaido thing too. But basically the idea as to why it's like that is humans are social creatures. And when you're living in the middle of nowhere, you only have imagine you have a wife that you feel like we had to have a kid, but realistically speaking, there's not another woman in the next 500 miles. I mean, that's an exaggeration. So you're like, if I don't get along with this wife, I'm going to be like, I'm not going to have anybody to spend my time with in this rural location in Alaska. You get into a fight and then it comes across your mind, oh, if I were to kill my wife right now, no one would notice. Because there's no internet connection. No, I'm not even kidding. Like, stuff like that is what people, obviously not exactly in that situation, but I would assume that situation I described is actually not too uncommon. When you have a place that has a lot of space, doesn't have a good form of connection to other places, and there's a bunch of stuff that makes people have more depression, like the constant like lack of sun, constantly cold temperatures, and all these other issues. People can become more isolated. In some sense, it's kind of like living in some places in Alaska, kind of like living in lockdown, except that's just kind of the normal state of things.
怒られるぞ、アラスカの人たちにも。
Yeah. With that said, without going too much of a tangent, Alaska, I believe that there are still locations in big cities, because we're talking across the entire state. It is true that rural areas are a lot of rural states are more dangerous, but in terms of specific cities, in terms of violent crime and petty crime, because I'm concerned about both, some locations in New York do rank up pretty high. They're still not the highest, but they still do. And so there are a lot of locations like this where in the US and in other countries and in other settings in other countries where you have to be cognizant of your safety. And this is the first time that I've really thought about it in a while. And so that's kind of why I wanted to have this discussion. But are you concerned about, so going to New York, is safety something you're concerned about?
なんか聞いたのがさ、なんて言うんだろう、場所によってなんかシェイリーな感じなところはもう見ればわかるみたいなね、なんだよね。そうだからそういうところに近づかない、ちょっと待って、日本語やべえわ。近づかなければ、近づきさえしなければ、そう大丈夫なんじゃないかなと思ってるし、あとさすがにさ、なんていうの、大都会でまあタイムズスクエアとかね、もう観光地のとことかはテロとかがない限りそんな大丈夫なんじゃない？少なくともさ、まあでもこれも楽観的に考えてんだけどさ、この何万と人がいてさ、そのうちのさ、自分にさ、例えば銃が当たる確率っていうのは何万分の1じゃん。何万人中の私だったらさ、ね。
Yeah, I that's one way to think about it. In my head, I'm less worried about violent crime and honestly more worried about petty crime, like theft. Because I'm a broke boy, as we've established. I'm a broke boy, so
oh, yeah.
And as a broke boy, I have a backpack that it's not on camera right now, but it can't be opened from the back, and it can only be opened from the side of the backpack that's touching your back when you have it on. So you can't open it from the outside. And this backpack, I think it just looks cool. But one of the reasons I got it was because I had a deck stolen. This is a deck of Magic the Gathering cards stolen when I was younger. And I didn't actually, like, I made the deck by playing in tournaments and winning tournaments and making it. And like now the cards will be worth probably around like $1,500 to $2,000. And so that completely shook me losing that. And so I had to get this backpack. And now because of this, even though this happened where I live now and it wasn't in a city, I have this idea that I'm like, dude, I don't want that to happen again. I don't want to have my laptop stolen.
ねえ、どうやって盗む、チャック、わからないの？チャック開けられてさ、なんか取られる。その感覚っていうか。
Well, I'm saying this was just paranoia. This is my paranoia. Realistically speaking, if you're going to be robbed, you'd probably just be held at gunpoint or somebody threatened to hold you at gunpoint. And then you basically just have to give them your entire backpack. So this whole backpack idea makes really no sense, but I think the backpack looks cool. So this is all just me establishing that I do have some sense of trying to not, what do you call it? Appear like someone who cares about getting robbed, which I'm aware will probably make me look even more suspicious. And so, go ahead.
なんかさ、結構観光客は狙われるとか言うじゃん。でしかも、日本人ってさ、なんかさ、バカっぽく見えるしさ、なんか狙われやすいっていうのがもう、なんかなんていうの、各国で、なんか有名っていうかね、そんな感じだからさ、多分、あっちの人に馴染んでっていうか、あっちの人みたいに、まあ、振る舞ってれば、そんなに狙われないんじゃないかみたいな。日本人みたいな格好をしてるとさ。
But, okay, so here's the thing though. If I told you to give me your British accent, you could think that you have a good British accent, but people who have a native British accent will be like, this person is that, like, what is this person doing? And I feel like that's the case with people trying to act like they aren't worried about their safety. Like if
違う、なんていうの、
you're
わか
not
る？じゃあ見た目だけ、だからタークとかじゃなくて、なんか見た目で日本人ってわかるじゃん。なんか、ひらひらスカート、フリフリスカート履いて、
oh yeah
なんていうの、日本人っぽいみたいな、いかにもみたいなわかるじゃん。
Yeah, I mean that's what I'm saying as my one benefit. My thing is like how I see it, and at least how I'm thinking about at the moment, is anything that you would own that is supposed to be protecting yourself to make yourself like this backpack I have, or I don't know, having like a really big cool lock on your bike. Like all things like that, to me in my head, are just making me think that you're more likely to be targeted, because it's clear that you're spending more money, and anything that costs more money is just going to make somebody think, oh, this person has money. So yeah. But in that sense, it makes me think, okay, does that mean you just have to like dress? I think it's called dressing down or something, where you intentionally dress.
まあカジュアルな洋服着るみたいな感じね。布切れみたいな。
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I have plenty of like very boro clothing.
それやめた方がいい。店入るときに断られるよ。入店禁止って言われるよ、それは。
Well, yeah, the other problem is though, as like the last thing I want to do is be a minority who looks poor in like a city though. So that's like the other angle. If you're too sketchy looking, the police are going to beat me up.
そうそう。なんか
or the civilians themselves, yeah.
なんて言うんだろうで。高い洋服着れば全然悪いしさ。なんか、布切れでさ。毛玉がめっちゃついてるさ。洋服だったらさ、やばいやつやん。なんか、なんて言うんだろうな、ユニクロあたり着てればいいんじゃないギャップとかユニクロあたり。
I don't think that, well, if I was going to Tokyo, so like, I mean, I will probably talk more about the New York situation, but I do want to say that this, although you're not going to be likely like shot, killed, or explicitly mugged or directly mugged in Japan, I do think that there are a lot of like gaikokujin symbols that people can give off that makes them the target for like a petty crime, or theft, in terms of, or not like literal theft, but like just getting ripped off. Do you have any ideas of what of how do you identify a foreigner if you're like in Tokyo? If you were trying to like either steal somebody or get someone to pay a bunch of money and rip them off, what is the image of the person in your head, the tourist?
まあ、まず見た目だよね。見た目で、あ、この人、
No, but what do they look like?
何だって、全然顔が違うじゃん。どういうこ
Oh,
と
I guess that's an easy one in terms of that. But you know what I'm saying? There is a difference though. You can see, for example, the Indians in Japan who like blend in really well. I would say, like you would not think that you're going to be able to bring them into a store to get them to buy a bunch of beer on a tab. If just, I think we've talked about this before, but for people who haven't been to Japan, that is a very common way of getting ripped off. Izakayas, especially ones where you're explicitly being targeted by people on the street, a lot of times will bring you in and then you basically have a tab and they'll bring a bunch of food and other stuff. I'm assuming that you ordered it, but you're not clear exactly what you're ordering and you can't know how much you're spending. And then at the very end of the day, you have a massive tab.
どうやってディスティングイッシュするかっていうのはね、なんか入店しましたってね。まあ、例えばご飯屋さんだったらね。で、まあなんか注文とかなんか喋るじゃん。もうその時点で
No, I'm
さ。
talking about before you, not in the restaurant, but you know what I'm talking about. You're walking down like a heavy, what's it called? A crowded street. And they have people who are like basically yelling at, or not, but you know, walking up to people and being, hey, want to go in the store, want to go in here. And a lot of times they do just look at you based on whether or not you're foreign, which is obvious. But I do think there are a lot of ways that you can reduce the chance of other people or of that happening. And so, for example, from my perspective, how I, like when I look at other foreigners who like, as in they're not Japanese, but they're in Japan, what I notice is, this is kind of obvious, but if you follow the same flow of traffic that like the majority of people are walking, and you kind of have, what do I say? You keep, what would you say? I think what you were saying with New York works great in Japan. You have simple clothing like Uniqlo, and you're not having like any sort of like, what's it called? Like crazy clothing, because I think that makes you seem very like foreigners.
原宿のポップなね、可愛いやつで言ったらもうやばいよ。
Yeah. But also in terms of how you like carry yourself, in terms of being, it's not just like Japanese, but I feel like a lot of the East Asian stereotypes of being more reserved or less actively like vocal. Like if anything, not saying anything is a great way to uphold some sort of ambiguity. Because as far as someone knows speaking to you to English, you don't speak English. Even if you're white, you could say, you know, you could be from like, I don't know, Europe, someplace in Europe.
まあ確かにね。まああと日本でディスティングイッシュする。日本人が、まあ、なんていうの、似てる。まあアジア人、まあ中国とか韓国人とかとディスティングイッシュするのは、こうやってお辞儀して返してくれたら日本人なんだよ。
Oh yeah, you know, that's great. That is, and that one, the thing is, you can use that in every situation, right? Like it doesn't even have to necessarily be like you know what I'm saying? You're walking by somebody, head nod. You're acknowledging what somebody said, head nod. You're meeting someone, head nod. I feel like, yeah, so if you don't know what you're doing in Japan, you hit up Uniqlo, and any time you get any sort of, what's it called? Sketchy situation, you just go with a slight bow and just keep walking.
Yeah. もうそれも日本人だな、完全に。
Yeah. But I do, so within this like topic of like, I guess you could say safety, I was kind of more interested about not just like being in cities, but also things that would be in more, what you call settings like a foreigner wouldn't normally be, like myself, like school or workplace. For example, with regards to like bullying. So from my experience, obviously there were a lot of things that get you picked out for being bullied. And I was wondering if you had any specific things that you've seen maybe from your experience, which is what types of people get bullied in Japan and for what, and how people avoid getting bullied.
ああ、はいはいはい。まあそもそも人種が違うとなんかいじめられるね。
Oh, that one's hard to deal with.
人種が、まあ人にもよるけどね。で、まあこの日本ではやっぱり白人、コケージャンと日本人のミックスは崇高されるのね。まあ、
Okay, what about things? I'm talking about things you can control.
I think so.
So
Okay,
like
okay.
let's say let's say they're like you're ethnically Japanese as well. I'm saying obviously Japanese people still get bullied. So I'm saying are there any tendencies you've noticed or for the types of people who get bullied or what are
Ah,
things that for example like your fellow women will bully other women for?
わかった。はいはい。まず、スティックアウトする人。なんか何でもできちゃったり、あと、なんだろう。みんな、なんて言うんだろうね。リーダー的な人は結構、なんていうのその、あの子、なんか出しゃばって何しちゃってんのみたいな。とか、あと、なんだろうね。まあそんな感じの人は、羨ましがられるのかな。わかんないけど。なんか、ジャラシーで多分、他の人からブリーされる、いじめられると。まあそれが一つ
This
かな。あとは、なんだろうね。結構物を主張する人も結構ターゲットになるね。
just
なん
in
て言うんだろうね。
general?
そう。なんだろう。日本って結構和を乱すし、和を乱すっていうか、なんて言うんだろう。悪く言えば和を乱すなんだけど、
The
よく言え
harmony.
ば自分の、
Disrupting the
え
harmony. Disrupting
あ、そうそう、
harmony.
ハーモニー、そうそう。自分の意見をなんていうの、しっかり言って、言う人は、まあなんだろうね。まあ時と場合によるけど、結構ターゲットにされんのかな。で、あと、まあちょっと、かといって自分の意見をずっと、なんていうの、主張して貫き通す人なんかなんていうんだろう。自分の意見をどうしても通したくて、妥協もしない人とかは、まあそれってなんていうの ?in general でさ、それ嫌われるじゃん、そういう人は。なんか、わがままみた
Um
いな人。
and well in a I mean not in America being like I would say assertive or outgoing would be you would get both responses. You get very positive responses and you might get some negative responses, but I don't generally think that's going to make you a target of bullying and I think it's more likely that that's going to make you have friends if you have that personality. I learned a new word this week. If I'm remembering it correctly, it's called is it gyofunori? Is
え
that the expression?
漁夫
It's
の
a
り
gyofunori.
う
Gyofunori.
ん。
Is that it?
漁夫のりだと思う。私も、あれどういう意味だっけ、それ。
It means if you have two people in a battle,
う
that the
ん。
person who's like in the outside the battle ends up winning because the other people are exhausting their resources fighting.
あ、そういうことか。
So and that kind of make when I was thinking about like Japanese bullying dynamics or you could say in general, it's like the first person to stick out and let's say there's the person to stick out and then there's the people maybe bullying him or maybe let's say there's like one um person in the class who's actively the leader
う
targeting
ん。
them. I feel like I mean you can back this up or not. um I feel like the people like it is the third sect or the onlookers or how would you describe it, the people who are commenting like the way that you win that strategy is you are still criticizing both of like the first two groups but you're just doing it in a non-direct way, so like kind of like talking shade to the other people.
うん。
And I don't, at least maybe for what maybe that's like too much, um maybe just from like my own anecdotal experience, but I've noticed a lot of ways I've seen bonding like that in Japan, and at least with some people who I've like well, I mean, I don't like talking shit on other people, but as opposed to, for example, like the American model where you're saying like what I was saying, where somebody who's very assertive, you'll get someone who's like very, um, maybe somebody who's very opposed to them, and then they'll kind of develop a following around them. You know how the U.S. has like there's the left wing and the right wing. It's kind of like you have
う
like this
ん。
extreme and that extreme, and if you're one extreme, then you bring the other. You bring a lot of people on your side, and there's a bunch of people not on their side, and you kind of have these two groups. Whereas when I see like
ああ、そう
Japanese
いう。
dynamics, I kind of see it like it's the person who in like science or quietly shits on both of them that ends
そう
up
ね。
being able to to form a group or community in that. I don't know if that made sense.
うん、なんとなく、うん。そうね。そもそもあんまり、なんて言うんだろう。 みんな和を乱したくないから、なんていうの、お互いの顔を伺いながら、なんていうの、ちょっとずつ、こんな感じで、なんか、ま
Yeah.
あ、
Or you know, a
やってく。
great way to think about it is the like you know what I'm saying the Japanese mothers in like the neighborhood where you'll
うん。
never you'll never get if a group of Japanese mothers don't like you, you're not going to hear it from them directly, but you will get their eyes. You know what I'm saying? You'll get the eyes and like the whispers and then hear them
そうね、そう。あちらのお宅のお子さんはちょっと、なんかね、学校で成績悪いらしいわよ、みたいな。なんか、
yeah. But I was
そう。
yeah, maybe I don't know. I don't know if you've had I know like obviously my experiences like are way less with dealing with Japanese group dynamics. And a lot of the times I'm like a wrench in that dynamic just because of the fact that I'm so inherently not Japanese in many different ways. So I don't know. I was curious to see if you had any thoughts on that. And
う
you
ん。
obviously work is like a sector that you haven't had as much experience with, but have you noticed anything within like medicine or studying medicine or anything particular into that where like does that same thing apply? Do you think people who come off as more like opinionated or anything like that end up being bullied, or do you think bullying is an issue when you get past what'd you say,
ああ。
not undergraduate but primary education?
何このメドスクールってことでってこと？
Yeah.
それがね、私ね、なんか、そういういざこざとか、なんか、外の世界にいるからよくわかんないんだよね。そもそもあんま友達じゃない、そういう人たちと。知らん。
Now I was just wondering if the dynamic flips. So in a place that's more like highly competitive, like med school, if you start to get, oh, I actually want to be. So for example, one reason people who tend to be more, let's say, extroverted or outgoing, I would say, tend to be popular in the U.S. is because a lot of people like to what's called ride their coattails. So they realize that this person looks confident and that they want to succeed with them, sort of, or maybe get something from them or establish some sort of status from being around them. And I'm saying,
あ
do you see something like that in med school?
あー、いやー、いないんじゃないわかんない。他の人さ、あんまり気にしなさすぎてさ、なんか興味なくてあんま知らんわ。
Okay.
わからん。
Well,
ご
I
めん
don't
な
know.
さい。うん。
Yeah, no worries. I think I had. Oh, there were going back because we don't have that much time left. There was so much in this topic that I wanted to cover that I got stuck in little small sections of it. Um, do you feel comfortable asking a Japanese stranger for help?
時と場合による。例えば、何のヘルプわかんないな。
Let's say you simple. Let's keep it simple. So you're lost.
ね、
You're
迷子になった
lost
っ
and,
て。うん。
across yeah, and then across the street there's a guy in there who's like a 30-year-old looking guy. Are you comfortable asking him for directions?
まず、私は自分で調べる。調べて自分がどうしてもわかん
Like
なかっ
you
た
don't have a
ら、
phone.
don't have a phone だったら、まあ聞くよ。それを聞くしかないでしょ。
Okay. So I generally am that way as well, but I'm wondering if that approach is going to be detrimental to me in New York. And I would love to hear people's opinions who live in New York or who've been to New York, or if I'm over exaggerating these thoughts in my head. But I'm like super talkative, and I feel like that's a terrible mix with New York, where starting a conversation with somebody could just increase your chances of getting mugged, getting ripped off, getting set up into a
確かに。
situation that you don't know how to get out of. But the thing is, I'm also extremely incompetent at times in very specific ways. As I mentioned before, I've managed to lose my wallet twice, one day and then the next day in Japan. And then the day I got back my wallet, I then left my phone on a train only for someone to have to give me my phone back
You
before
manage
the
じゃなく
train
て、
doors closed.
someone kind がさ、真似してでしょ。
Well, so the thing is, I don't feel like any doubts about my safety in Japan. And so,
う
and I
ん。
was kind of poking around different aspects of Japan and seeing like how people or how Japanese people, they maneuver the waters to not be someone who is actively sticking out, because everybody knows that you're not supposed to stick out. I was just trying to get an idea of what does that actually mean. It seems like it's more straightforward, and then obviously with my own perspective of, hey, I'm trying not to stick out being in New York. I think being brown helps me, but I think I need more than that, because I have a lot of I still have the half white in me, and the half white in me is very strong. So here's my question to everybody. What should a Joey do? Should IME be concerned? Are there any tips and tricks that you have so that we don't get mugged in New York?
Just don't talk to anyone.
Let us know.
Okay, we are back. So yeah, I'm gonna start. There's life update from me and what?
Life update なの?
So yeah, my life update. So I think I will probably choose orthopedics. Yeah. No. Like I'm not like determined, but yeah. My two top options are orthopedics or neurosurgeon.
結構違いますね.
Yeah. So like, okay, so I went to the orthopedics department like 2 weeks ago, and I really liked it. It was like an art craft. Yeah. Like making sticking things together, or yeah, that kind of thing. So I thought that's like my thing, but many people say that orthopedics is not for women.
Many people というと一般人
Yeah, like many doctors, many
医者
Yeah, many doctors are like
どういうところが上手に
so like in orthopedics, they use like nails, hammers, like drills, like things you use to make like houses. I don't know.
トンカチとか使うの?
Yeah.
そんな
like medical hammers よ. medical だけどね。
なんか私が持ってる orthopedics はそんなにグロくないけど、まあ実際は。
But yeah, so like they use that kind of stuff. So apparently you need like power, right?
そこまでなんかロボットとか使ってない?
Yeah, sometimes like yeah, they use robot だけど, but like there are things you have to do by your like using your hands. So yeah. They can be like sometimes it can be difficult for women, right? But the good thing is orthopedics, there are many specialties in that. So like you can like specialize in like hand surgery, leg surgery, or just like I don't know, like small bones no surgery しかやんないとかね。
Small bones
So I think
耳の中の
耳の中はENT, ear, nose, and like
ENT.
throat. So yeah. So I guess that can be good. And also for neurosurgery, the reason I thought it was interesting was because obviously neuro like brain is essential for human beings, right? So like that gives me the how do you say that's like rewarding, like I'm helping this human. Yeah. And also I like anatomy, so once you understand like how like neurons work and then like which part this neuron goes in the brain, so you can like do the surgery. So I guess that's that's
でもなんか大変じゃない? まあわかんないんだ
Yeah,
けど、
yeah.
脳手術なの？日本語でなんて
Yeah, yeah. So it can be like 10 hours, like 8 to 10 hours of surgery. So it is tough. And the doctor said that he didn't have golden week. Well, like
最低。
anesthesia, なんだっけ麻酔か
そうそうそう、アネスティジア。
そう。
アネスティ
And
ジアロジスト。
あと、なんだっけ病理ってなんて、pathology
Pathology,
no. Yeah, doctors, we're having golden week breaks だけど、neurosurgery department didn't have, golden week.
ゴール
I
デン
mean,
ゴールデンウィークなかったから他の時期にあったってこと？それとも
no, no, no,
完
no,
全
no.
に
They
ゼ
they
ロ？
just like keep working. They didn't have breaks.
そ
So
の労働環境がちさすなんかちょっとその違いが大きすぎない？
yeah. So if
そ
I
の両方
want,
の選択肢に関しては。
yeah, if I want to have like my life, yeah, like my private life, I don't know, outside of hospitals, then I think neurosurgery is not like good for that. But I don't know, like they can be some like
ちなみに
short.
その
Mm.
脳手術をやる情勢をしていますか？なんか医
Yeah,
者。
yeah, yeah, yeah. Like there were three women, female doctors. Yeah, in the department.
なぜそんな
Yeah.
ことを言ってるかというと、そのもちろん子供育てに関しては、まあもちろんその旦那様もできる可能性もあるんだけど、その
Mm.
脳手術をやってると完全になんか子供を育てる時間がゼロになっちゃう気がする。でも
Yeah.
同時にお金を儲かるから多分他の人を雇えるけどね。
It's not good for ね family だよね。
まあ男性がやってる時も子供には悪影響があるかもしれないけど、もちろんその誰もやらないと社会的にもいろいろ問題があるから。
Yeah, but yeah, I'm still searching for departments I like. So this might
その
be changed in the future.
Orthopedics の手術に関しては、そのなんか PT、英語で PT、Personal Trainer という概念があるんだけど、その Orthopedics は、なんかその PT は日本であまり存在しないという話をなんか多分1年前に話したことあると思うんだけど、その PT と Orthopedics は日本では全部は Orthopedics の中に入る。
PT が何 ?Personal
Personal
trainer?
Trainer とかはその手術じゃないけど、例えば怪我した時に、なんていうか、Personal Trainer に行って、そのいろいろなんかの運動をして、なんかその
理学療法士
そう。
Yeah, that's a thing in Japan. Yeah.
ある？
PT. I guess it's
な
not like personal
でも
training
スポーツ系じゃなかったってこと？
違う。It's not あれだよ。略称が違うよ。PT が忘れたけど、Yeah.
まあ、とりあえず、その、
Yeah.
まあ、なんていう、決断はうまくいくといいね。And we're back with the final section. And if you've made it to the final section, send an email to lazyfluency@gmail.com with a comment, question, language related, and or otherwise. And this week, oh my God, you guys, I mean, I appreciate it. I love reading your stuff, but my job becomes very difficult when you guys have these, they're beautiful essays. I do love reading lots of comments, but it makes me feel bad not being able to include everybody's comments and address everything that's said. So I kind of had to pick the questions that I was asked from this week. And with that said, we have 3 that I will be addressing. And the first one is from a new commenter, South Coast Inventors 6583. Interesting name. And his comment goes as follows. New subscriber, learning from a non-native speaker is better to start out with until you reach intermediate level, as you understand most of the filler, basic vocabulary, grammar, and some slang. After that, you need output with natives and need to consume content in 100% Japanese to work your way through the nuances. So about 2 years with mostly non-native speakers, then make the transition. But after 2 years, it's really about finding the content you like and talking to a Japanese person who you find interesting. End of the day, it's about consistency. I'm a year in myself, and I'm primarily a YouTube learner and mainly been using Toki ni Andy, Game Gengo, and Japanese from zero. Thanks for the comment. We always especially love our new commenters and new subscribers. Yay. Aimi, do you have, I generally agree with this, although I've been having more and more thoughts because for the people to know, I do tutor people as just because I can't help it. I like I like talking about Japanese, I like helping people with Japanese. And I have been thinking more about what role the non-native tutor should be in, and whether there is even a role for a tutor in an ideal sense and all the things like that. But I'm not sure if you had any more thoughts from our previous episode, Ayami, about non-native tutors versus native tutors in terms of what their ideal role should be.
まあでもほとんど言った気がすんな。だから、ネイティブのティーチャーは、自然な使い方とか、発音とかはいいけど、グラマーはちょっと、説明するのは、ちょっと難しいかな。
Yeah, something I thought about this last week that I didn't address in the episode because I didn't really think about it was having a shared language with the learner is actually very helpful for a beginner, especially the younger the beginner is, if it's a child, or even if it's not a child, just because establishing a basis of communication between you and your tutor or teacher is extremely important, because for the longest period of time, you will not be able to communicate in Japanese with your tutor. So if they don't have a really strong grasp on English, then it doesn't really matter how good their Japanese is, or if they're native Japanese professor, because you really can't communicate with them. And I just noticed this because I looked at some online tutors, and a lot of them I would say had lower intermediate English. And I was thinking, if I was the person I'm tutoring, if they had this tutor, I just feel like it'd be very difficult to clearly convey just most things. And I feel like that wall is something that you avoid easily just by having another native speaker of your own language. So that's something I didn't think about before. Okay. Well, those are our thoughts on that. Thank you for making me revisit those thoughts. Our next comment is from Trevor, another recent commenter, and it goes as follows. Other than English and Japanese, do you see yourself studying another language in the future, or do you already consider yourself more than bilingual? I don't have enough time to study another language besides Japanese, but if I did, I would choose Spanish or Russian because I'm in contact with people from those countries most frequently. If feasible, I think it would be also cool to tackle the entire CJKV, Chinese, Japanese, Korean, Vietnamese, and I would go Vietnamese first, being that it's more in common and a heritage language for me. Thank you for the comment, Trevor. Amy? Third, fourth language?
そもそもさ、今、全然、イングリッシュがパーフェクトじゃないし、全然もう、on the way っていうか、なんていうの on my, なんていうの fluent journey の途中だから、全然なんだけど、もし、もう英語が完璧になりました。ってなったら、なんだろうね。スパニッシュとかいいんじゃない？スパニッシュとかいいと思うな。それか、なんだろう。もし他の国で働くってなったら、その国のさ、言語は当然必要になるんだろうかな。その国の言葉やるべきだと思う。けど、次に何を勉強したいってなった時はスパニッシュになるかな。
Well, just for context, Aimi has studied a little bit of German before and knows Taiwanese to some extent as well.
そう、
and
じゃあ、あとね、フレンチもやったよ。あと、チャイニーズもちょっとやったんで。け
you
ど、
did a lot of
学校、
short
学校のシ
stints.
ステムが悪すぎてさ、なんか、メッツスクールだのね。で、うちのメッツスクールは、第二言語を選ぶとかはなくて、なんか、なんだっけな、大学1年と2年で、選択授業っていうのがあって、そこで、いろんなコースを選べるのね。その中に、言語の、チャイニーズとかがあったの。で、私は、まあ、それを選んだと。新しい言語いいじゃん、いいじゃん、みたいなね。それで選んだものの、クラスがさ、マジで少なすぎて、なんだっけ、2週間に1回が、なんか、7回ぐらいしかなかったんかな。2週間に1回もなかったかもしれない。まあ、要するに、まあ、多分全体で7時間ぐらいしかやってないからさ、言語ってそんな、なんていうの ?7 時間やればいけるじゃんってもんじゃないからさ、全部中途半端に終わってさ、
Yeah, something I
あ
found
の、
interesting about Trevor's comment, which I found very intelligent, is the sentence, or do you already consider yourself more than bilingual? Because inside here, there's this wrapped assumption, which is only an assumption that someone who's learning a language will make, or not assumption, but I think truth in language learning, which is things are very subjective and vague, and people's perspectives on when a language is sufficient is equally subjective and vague. And what I will say is, I feel like most people would consider myself trilingual. I think if I'm being honest with myself, would also consider myself trilingual, that being Spanish. But the thing is, so this is a fun fact, and I don't know if I mentioned this on podcast. Technically speaking, my first language was Spanish. The first language I knew was Spanish. I spoke to my mom in Spanish. And despite this, I would say, like, I'm least comfortable. My comprehension with Spanish is very, very strong, just because, like, babies' brains and child's brains. And I went to school, in elementary school in Central America for a period of time. And so my natural baby brain comprehension is extremely strong. But compared to that, my speaking is just so much lower than that. And it's not like I can't, like, I can
あ、
I
そう
can
な
speak
の
to people. Yeah, well, the thing is, the thing is, I
うん
can't. Okay, so if you're a non-native speaker learning Spanish, and then you're talking to me, you're, oh, your Spanish is good. But the thing you have to understand, Spanish was my first language. That it hurts me. It hurts me to say that I'm not, like, basically just like a native. You know, the amount of times I see other Japanese, like, I'm saying, the true Japanese halves, or hafu or whatever, or
うん。
where, like, or kikokushijo, where they've done like a half of their life in one place, half their life in one place, schooling in both of them for equal amounts of time. Their parents only speak Japanese, so they speak to them Japanese. It's like the perfect environment for creating a true language hybrid. Whereas for me, I'm like, bro, like, yeah, I mean, I'm not, like, at the point where there's a lot of Americans who have, like, Hispanic parents who can't speak Spanish or understand Spanish. Like, I'm not, it's not that bad. But it's still, like, I feel like I just can't be proud of it. And because of that, I feel like part of me is like, can't I say I'm trilingual? But I mean, I think any normal person would say I'm trilingual. With that said, as for other languages I'm interested in learning, in the back of my head, I always think that I want to learn German. It used to be Russian, but, like, I'm sorry, I know a country's better than just its president and how it's doing politics, but I cannot. This is the same reason I can't learn Chinese, bro. I want to be able to actually go to the place that I want to learn the language of, and there's so much uncertainty in Russia and China that no way, nope. Korea, I mean, and I do think it's fundamentally cool to learn all the East Asian languages, but me personally, you're talking to me and Korea don't vibe. It's kind of like a lot of the stuff I like. On the surface level, you think it's a lot similar to Japan, but a lot of the stuff with Korea, I feel like, is, like, kind of the extremes a lot, whether it be, like, the bullying or the work culture
そう
or
ね。
the
うん。
racism or other stuff. It's just, like, more intensified in Korea from
あ、そう
my
なの Huh.
from all that I understand and know, and looking at statistics like all the stuff that people rag on Japan for is in Korea, but worse, whether it be the population problem or, from what I understand, the working culture or suicide rates or like xenophobia, like it just thing after thing. And the thing is, Korea doesn't have anime. Japan has anime.
それがメイ
And
ン
that
じゃ
does a
ん。
lot.
それ
That does a
それ
lot
の
for
ため
me.
に生きてるじ
I mean, I'm a man who loves his anime, but yeah, if I were to choose one, it would be German. Realistically speaking, my Japanese is not anywhere as good as I want it to be, just because
ゃん。
you know what I'm saying it.
十分、わし、なんだっけ。Ich liebe dich っていうのが確か I love you なんで、確か。I like you か I love you なんで、確かね。
Well, that's Ayami's message to you, Trevor. So
I love you guys.
yeah. And we have one more question that I want to make sure we hit up, and it is from Oddity, and it goes as follows. Hey, Joey, why are you raining on Ayami's parade? Bruh, that's not cool. Haha. Considering how ambitious and overworked Japanese students are known to be, it seems like what Ayami is doing is a welcome change. Personally, I'm kind of anti-self-help books altogether. As a philosophy major, the tendency of this entire genre to often falsely abridge basic principles and misrepresent them really bothers me. That said, I'm aware not everyone can be like, oh, I'm feeling some existential, and you know what, I don't know what the pronunciation of this word is. I've seen it before. I've only ever read it. So I'm going to say ennui. So let's crack open some Schopenhauer and what's it called? Oh my God, Nietzsche. There we go. So I'm not judgy. Cheers, Oddity. Why you got me? I mean, I could also just look at the pronunciation ahead of time, but you know, I'm a real deer here. Even though I've read the words many times, sometimes you never hear them actively pronounced. And yeah, sometimes it is what it is.
本当だよ、なんでわしの楽園にさ、豪雨を降らせてんだよ、おい。
Okay. So
雷雨だ、雷雨。
So my defense of myself is, so there was this is like behind the scenes thing. There was a problem when we were filming the middle section, and so we had to make a cut in the middle of the episode and then continue it afterwards. And my whole brain was thinking about, now I have to make an edit, and I was like, bummer in my head. And then I was thinking about that, which made it so I was like half focused on speaking, and then half of my brain was off in La La Land. So I was more so that I was like half spaced out, more so than antagonistic towards Ayami's self-help journey, which I do support. But with that said, my animosity not animosity, but kind of skepticism towards the author was definitely something that I had and have, because it just sounds ridiculous to me to somebody be like, so to me, things are good because they have intrinsic, maybe let's say because they have intrinsic value. You like doing them for the sake, like for the actual task itself. That's kind of what I value in doing tasks. But when somebody goes around and their whole point is, look how awesome and productive I am, and look how good all my things, or look how many things I do, all I think about is, hey, you know what I'm saying? You wouldn't have to tell me that you have to post a YouTube video every day if you're like, you know, saying, and obviously we're a smaller channel, so I know this isn't entirely the most logical thing, but I had my like, bro, if you were great at being a YouTuber, when you would have a big enough channel to like do, like, if you have 50 different things you're doing and I've never heard about you, obviously I'm American. That's probably one part of it. But the second time, are you not just doing these things to say that you do these things every day? Like, this doesn't seem to be coming from an intrinsic point of liking doing things. It seems like you're doing it so they can pretend like you're better than other people, and like, you're, wow, how amazing, I'm doing all these things, look at all these, they're all bad, but I'm doing them.
Joey. Just ね、まあいいんじゃない？個人が、なんて言うんだろう。その人、なんて言うの？人生に満足してんだから。ねえ。
What is, you know what I'm saying? I don't read like people like that are happy. I'm saying it's like, to me, they're trying to convince other people they're happy. That's what I read. That's when I see that. I feel like Oddity might agree with me, because Oddity did not say that she was a self-help book lover. Oh, and I will say, one of the other reasons I chose this part of Oddity's comment to respond to is because a lot of people actually were very curious about Oddity's books you're reading, including Shockox. Sorry, Shockox, we didn't get to your comment this time. But he was also inquiring, and there was another inquiry I think I didn't address too from I think Trevor about do you have any other book recommendations? What was the book that you read again? The name of the book that we talked about?
何前回のやつ。
アウトプットの大全？
なんだっけ？
アウトプット大全？
そう、アウトプット大全と、なんだっけ？
大きい感じ and like すべて全部。
ちょっと待って。毎日を楽しめる人の考え方。
Oh, okay, so there you go.
そう、ちょっと先週はね、忙しかったからあんま読めなかったけど、でさ、結構、本って、なんか読んでもね、やっぱね、どういう内容書いてあったか抜けてくからね、最近は、なんか、Notion って知ってる？
Yes.
それに、なんかちょっと、なんつった？
It's all YouTube ads. Notion, the new note-taking.
そう、Notion、そう。に、なんかどういうのが書いてあったかみたいなのを書いてるけど、それ自体が頭の中残ってるからよくわからん。まあいいんだよ。ね。セルフヘルプブックで、いや、一番いいなと思ったのは、How to influence people なんかカーネギーのやつ。
How to influence people? Carnegie Press or something, I think.
How to influence people なんだっけ？ちょっと待って、すぐ終わるから。
No, we'll put it in the comment. It's fine for YouTube when you figure it out. So people can check the YouTube comment to see IME's recommendation because we are going, I think, a little long.
How to win friends and influence people だ。
Oh, how to win friends and influence people. Well, there you go.
デオ・カーネギーってやつ。これはマジで、重要よ。なんか人間関係をね、その、良好に保つためのね、ティップが書いてあるから。マジで。You should read it だよ。You're too assertive だから。
I don't know how to respond to that in a way without confirming that statement. But anyways, yeah, thanks for the comment, everybody. And yeah. That bell means we reached the end of today's episode. Thanks for joining us in another lazy conversation towards fluency. If you have any language-related questions and or just looking for general advice, send an email to lazyfluency@gmail.com. We might respond in the next episode. Also, make sure to check out our podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and more. We'd appreciate the support. This has been Joey.
And your favorite, Ayami.
Signing off. じゃあねー。